Welcome to the Liberating River, where spiritual freedom meets soul aligned wealth. I'm your guide, Wanda F. Nesbitt. Let's break free, build boldly, and live fully together.
There's a quiet moment between what we planned and what actually happened. It's that sharp inhale when something collapses, whether it's the job, the relationship, the dream, and you whisper to yourself, this wasn't supposed to happen, or this isn't supposed to be happening. And what if? What if that very moment is where resilience begins? Because resilience doesn't start when the storm passes. It starts when you stop fighting the rain. Aligning unapologetically with your storm is a sacred detour. Today, we're exploring a truth that shapes how we meet adversity. Change what you see and change what it means. Change what you see and change what it means. This is the power of perspective shifts. This is not a new concept. The thing is, we just don't do it. We do not do it. We get consumed by what we see instead of taking a step, maybe two steps back and changing our perspective. So let's begin with the science of our mind. So in psychology, um, there is a thing called the psychology of perception. Psychologist Richard Lazarus taught something truly profound. He taught about how stress isn't caused by the event itself. It's shaped by our appraisal of the event. Stress is not caused by the event itself. It is shaped by our appraisal of the event. After reading that and other information he had, I stopped and I had to think about that for a minute. And I remember back in 2009, I was cleaning up and cleaning around in my condo, and I normally clean with some white socks. Listen, don't worry about it. Don't talk about it. That's just what I do, right? And I stubbed my big toe. It was either on my dresser or on my bed, one or the other. And I didn't scream. Um, I didn't overly react. Of course, I felt the pain. I just did one of those things how I normally do. I kind of stiffened and was like, and I took in a deep breath. That's what I normally do, especially when something painful happens. Like stubbing my toe or maybe hot water, getting on my hand or something like that. And I remember I did not look down immediately. I wiggled my feet. I still felt my toe. Still felt, my foot. So I knew my toe wasn't broken. So I was like, all right, let me just keep going. I'll soak my feet later on. That was my thought. Until this is the crazy part. Until I noticed spots. And I was like, now I remember cleaning over here. Where the heck is this spot coming from? I was like, damn, my house is this dirty? It looked like I was tracking everywhere. I finally looked down and I saw my sock was bloodstained. So I took the sock off. Come to find out, I don't remember this part. I don't know if my nail was totally off or it was half off, but I know it was up in which I had blood coming. Like I said, I was listening to or reading some of Richard Lazarus stuff. I then started remembering other incidences and situations that were stressful. And I was comparing how I responded to those things. And I did notice the different outcomes of every event. So Richard Lazarus, who's right? Based on how we appraise the situation, we respond. So yes, we absolutely appraise stressful events and situations differently. I think we instinctively ask ourselves two questions. And I think they're similar to, okay, is this a threat or is this a challenge? Or do I have the resources to handle it? Can I take care of this? Those kind of things. I think those instinctively, we immediately go there. That's what we do. Those silent internal questions, they are powerful. You and I both know it. They shape our emotions before we even realize it. You want more proof? I'll give you more proof. That's why two people can experience the same hardship or situation, and one breaks down while the other breaks through. This does not mean that one is inherently more stronger than the other. It just means that one person told themselves a different story. They have a different internal narrative, and a narrative that turns difficulty into transformation is way different than a narrative that turns the difficulty into trauma. Lazarus had me thinking about that a lot. What if peace is not about a life without problems? What if peace is not about a life without problems? What if peace is about cultivating a perception that refuses to call every unknown an enemy? I've said it before. We are quick to label things so we can justifiably make sense of it, make sense of whatever is going on. What if things are this? Your peace is not the absence of problems, but it's the mastery of perception. Mm. And I'm going to take it here, but I was really starting to think about it. It's ironic that Richard Lazarus wrote on this topic, perspective. Some of you might know, some of you might not know. But in the Bible, specifically in St. John, the 11th chapter, it's I think it's the first through the 44th verses. I don't know if that's the full chapter, but it's in there. I remember it. It talks about Jesus and his friend Lazarus, and Lazarus was sick and he dies, right? Listen, it's not about whether or not you believe in the story, but just hang with me and do your research. It's already documented. And it happened. It has been verified. It was a real event and situation. I'm not here. That's not what we're here for. Okay. I'm here just to share this story. So Lazarus was dead and in the grave for 4 days. The perspective of the situation was Jesus's friend was dead. Lazarus had sisters, two sisters, Mary and Martha. They both know it. They both knew it. Sorry. And they experienced the situation firsthand. They buried him. In this story, in this section of the scriptures, it is infamous for having the shortest Bible verse ever established. Verse 35, it says, Jesus wept. Everybody understood what happened and wept. You can have your emotions, but I think the power of this story was that You don't stay there. Your perspective has to change. That was the difference between Lazarus' siblings and Jesus' vantage point. Granted, this is, again, a topic most people don't want to deal with, but it's okay. I'm using this as an example, as a vantage point to make you think and shift differently. I'm just talking about fundamentally. Everybody's going to have their own uh perspective of a situation. And that's always going to be the difference between individuals. The perspective is what changed the outcome of Lazarus' life. If you know the story, then you know literally once Jesus got there, that's when, as we call it, a miracle occurred. So I think it's irony that Richard Lazarus dives into this thing of perspective. And Lazarus, millions, maybe billions of years ago, he became the beneficiary of a different perspective. It shifted things. And I think that is so amazing. So ask yourself right now, where have I mistaken inconvenience for punishment? Where might growth be disguising itself as loss? You must remember freedom flows and follows awakening. Freedom flows and follows awakening. That's when the shift in your perspective hits. So after Lazarus came out of the grave or was raised from the dead, Jesus told the people, hey, loose him and let him go. New life includes removing what still binds you, which is habits, which are habits, labels, and limitations. So what does that all mean? Your spiritual lens, that spiritual technology, must be refocused. When you go to the eye doctor, right? I go to the eye doctor. I wear contacts. They put you behind this little doohickey. I don't know the name of it, so forgive me. You know it? Let me know, okay? And when the eye doctor is checking your eyes, the doctor asks you a question. You all probably know it. Y'all probably know it verbatim. I don't know verbatim, so I'm a paraphrase right now. So the doctor will say, okay, which lens looks better? One or two? One or two? And then the doctor might even go deeper depending on what he's noticed or what the person or the patient says. They might say, what about three or four? So what does that mean? Adjustments must be made so that clarity can be seen. And okay, if you don't wear eyeglasses, okay, no problem. No problem. You probably wear sunglasses. Same concept. And why do you wear sunglasses? So you can see. Because typically you put on sunglasses because the sun is bright. There is an adjustment that needs to be put in place that the sunglasses provide. It filters down the sun's glare so you can properly focus. I even know some people who wear sunglasses at night or wear special glasses at night because the headlights are too bright for them. And of course, there are some people who drive around with high beams on. I think it's very ignorant, but that's all. They keep the high beams on at all times. And again, those sunglasses or those protective glasses. I'm not sure the exact words, but I know there are some night glasses, I'll say it that way, that will filter out the bright light. And why is it used? To refocus your eyes so you can see clearly. Spiritually, we can take it this way. Buddhist philosophy calls perception one of the five aggregates shaping our entire human experience. And many ancestral traditions tell us we see through the eyes of our stories. So when you shift your story, you shift the strength available to you. I think that's deep. So a renewed mind is basically the rewiring of our nervous system. I'm not trying to be poetic. It's biological. It naturally happens. So if you put those two together, it means that spiritual transformation shows up in our body. And that equals we must be tapped in mentally and spiritually. And that's why we have this platform here. That's why the Liberating River was birthed. Because your mental and your spiritual has to get in alignment. That's the only way things are going to flow. That's the only way you're going to have inner peace. That's the only way you're really going to be happy.
Stay tuned. To be continued. Coming next week. Thanks for flowing with us on the Liberating River. Subscribe, share, and come back next week for more wisdom, wealth, and alignment. Stay free, stay grounded, stay bold.